Hey, good afternoon to you. It is now 3:06, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, the great Katie Gorka is with us, chairwoman of the Fairfax Republican Party, as the Biden administration wants illegal aliens to be put back on the voter rolls in Virginia. They're suing Glenn Youngkin and the Commonwealth of Virginia over this. Election shenanigans very much underway. Katie talks to us this hour about that. Todd Bensman from the Center for Immigration Studies and from south of our border today calls us at 4 o'clock. We chat with him about an incoming Kamala caravan. That's right. It's all based on the election. Megan Brock will be here as well from the Daily Caller News Foundation at 4:30. And then Mark Paoletta is here at 5 o'clock. We've got a lot to discuss with him, including this anniversary of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas being confirmed by the United States Senate all those years ago. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. My thanks to Corey Inganamorte for his hosting yesterday of the program during Italian People's Day. I really appreciate that. That wasn't actually the reason that I took the day off. I was in Wisconsin for a conference with a bunch of conservatives, great conservatives, up in Kohler, Wisconsin. Yes, your toilet may be named after the town, where they got these big headquarters of all the bathroom supplies that they've created through the years. Pretty cool. Neat to see. Beautiful, beautiful town. I believe they call it a village, just to really accentuate how beautiful it is. But one of the fascinating things about being in Wisconsin at this time, just over 20 days from the election, is, oh my goodness, be careful if you turn your television on. Be careful. Every single advertisement in the state of Wisconsin is all politics all the time right now. It's just hitting you in the face no matter what's happening. It's Eric Hovde, it's Tammy Baldwin, it's Trump, it's Kamala, it's anti-Trump, it's anti-Kamala, pack. You know, it's wild. And I was there Sunday night. I turned on Sunday Night Football trying to get an eye on that for a few minutes, and it was just ad after ad after ad after ad. It was unbelievable. But that's what you would expect in a swing state like Wisconsin. So the race is tight. The race is tight. Have you seen the betting markets? They're all headed towards Trump. They think that this race is not a coin toss, that is heading in Trump's direction with each passing day. And by the grace of God, they're right. I hope so. I hope they're right about that. It is usually good for Republicans to be this close in basic national polling, to be neck and neck, for the popular vote to be this evenly split. That works well because most of the country, as you look at it geographically, is on the side of sanity. And that's why we have the Electoral College as a bulwark against insanity. That's the whole point. And that bodes well for Trump. But as I pointed out, as I was laying out who our guests are, the left is undertaking all sorts of shenanigans right now, as expected, leading up to the election, including trying to force in Virginia, which who knows how Virginia's going to go. They keep telling us Kamala's going to win this thing, but I think it's in the ball game at least. It's on the field. It's participating. And the Biden administration is trying to force 6,000 non-citizens back onto the voter rolls for the federal election, where it is illegal for non-citizens to vote. It's nonsensical in a world where you're trying to maintain the law, of course. It's perfectly sensible in a world where you are trying to meddle in the election. So the United States Department of Justice, yet again, acting in an explicitly political manner in order to help Democrats and not to ensure the integrity of the vote or our judicial system. So Katie Gorka joins us coming up at 3:30 to discuss. Also, one of the reasons I was unhappy about not being on the air with you yesterday, despite the fact that I was with, again, great conservatives in Wisconsin, one of the reasons I was unhappy was I saw what Bill Clinton said yesterday. I was going crazy watching this. Bill Clinton, out in Georgia, declares outright that Kamala Harris allowed Laken Riley's killer to get into the country. Now, he didn't say the words Kamala Harris, but he came about as close as you possibly could. And it was so obvious what was happening. This was Bill Clinton yesterday. By now you've heard.
You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant.
Laken Riley.
Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, wait, who? Did you hear the laugh in that audio? Some lunatic laughed. If they had properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. What are you laughing about, you psychopath?
It probably wouldn't have happened. But if they're all properly vetted, and that doesn't happen, and America is not having enough babies to keep our populations up. So we need immigrants that have been vetted to do work.
Oh, my goodness. What a disaster. So yet again, the sort of standard issue left-wing attack on American citizens. Anytime there's problems with the illegal aliens, have you noticed the left always resorts to, how about this? We'll attack Americans in order to get our way out of this. Don't you ask questions about the border? Don't you ask why it's open? Don't you have any problems whatsoever with foreign nationals being dropped on your town? The second you say something like that, what does the left say to you? Well, American citizens commit more crimes than immigrants. What? What are you talking about? First of all, every illegal alien commits a crime. Every single one. It's a 100% crime rate. If you illegally immigrate to our country, you've committed a crime. But then they'll also say things like, well, Americans are just not reproductive enough. The party that sells abortion on every street corner is saying, you know, Americans aren't having enough babies, they'll say out of the other side of their stupid mouths. And then they'll say, this is why we need illegals. They're not even pretending to talk about legal immigration. They're not even pretending to talk about it. Bill Clinton straight up said, you know, we need more of people, and the only way we're going to get it is not from Americans because they're not having babies, because we've been telling them to abort all of their children. Why don't we just bring in illegals? They'll come across the border, we'll take them in. We just have to, quote, vet them a little bit. And, you know, if vetting goes better than it did in Laken Riley's circumstances, then it should be great. We'll have a guy who can do the jobs. Americans are aborting their children, so we don't have enough of those. And yeah, sure, come in illegally. It'll help my donors. It'll help that community. Is anyone hearing this? Is anyone hearing this? So, and Laken Riley's killer, just to remind you of the time frame, comes in September of 2022. Is taken into custody, walks into the custody of the Biden people and says, you know, process me, please. I'd like to get in. And the Biden administration rubber stamps him and throws him into the country. And then in terms of, in retrospect, when they're asked about it, well, we couldn't keep him. We just didn't have the detention space, so we had to release him into America, like literally almost everybody else. And that's where we are. So what was the guy's name? Ibarra, Jose Ibarra. He entered in September of 2022. He was released by Biden and Harris. The New York Post says today, Bill Clinton got it right. Harris-Biden's broken border led to Laken Riley's murder. They say Bubba was supposedly stumping for Kamala Harris, trying to defend her horrific record as borders are, when he accidentally told the truth. The 22-year-old Georgia student's accused killer, Jose Ibarra, had crossed into the United States illegally in 2022 and then got promptly released into the interior. So an American is dead because of Kamala Harris. That's what's happening. And Bill Clinton said it out loud on the campaign trail. Bubba told the truth. Bubba told the truth. Bill Clinton got it right. And the people he was speaking with were laughing about this. Yeah, if they've been vetted better. Oh, what a crazy world, huh? It's one atrocity after the other. And of course, all these Democrat Party bigwigs, these big shots, they all keep stepping on Kamala's campaign, all of them. Whether it's Joe Biden saying that Governor DeSantis has been great to work with in Florida, in the midst of Kamala trying to go to war with him. He's not answering my phone calls. Biden's like, actually, he's been great. He's been really great. He's been super responsive. We're texting each other. We're practically sending each other heart emojis with each passing hour. Forget what Kamala's saying. So Biden steps on that. Obama comes out this past week and attacks black men as being disloyal and not committed enough to Kamala's skin color. How dare you, says Obama. What's wrong with you? She knows your struggle, he invents. The woman who grew up in Canada. So everything about her life story is so privileged and so far apart from, definitely from mine and certainly for most of yours, I would imagine, unless you were consistently in Democrat machine politics from the moment you began earning a paycheck, and you were earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in that capacity for doing very little work whatsoever, and you only got to that position by virtue of the patronage of somebody like Willie Brown. If that's your story, then yes, you have something in common with Kamala Harris. But chances are, unless you are Kamala Harris, that isn't your story. So Obama's making it up. Obama's just making it up. She's just like you. She's experienced the same struggle you have. Her skin color has put her in the same situation you've been in. And on and on and on. This mindless message, this patronizing, awful message that Obama, was expressing to black men this past week. So all these guys they're not helping. They're not helping. It's wild. And then, of course, Bill Clinton on the campaign trail in Georgia saying Laken Riley would be alive today were it not for Kamala Harris. Please keep sending these idiots out. Please. And one last thing on this. And I'll take a call. I want to take a call on this subject. And you can always call it 888-630-9625. I think in the case of these presidents, these Democrat presidents, they are out of control in their own party. They don't answer to anybody. They don't care what any of these junior people around them think. They've basically checked out a while ago. They're living high on the hog. They cashed in big time while they were in office. They're reaping the otherworldly benefits of being a Democrat politician, being a Democrat president, enriching themselves for the rest of their lives. That's the world they live in, so they don't care. They're barely mailing it in for Kamala Harris. Yeah, whatever. I'll say whatever I have to. I go out there and try and say some things. And even then, they're just winging it. They're making it up on the fly. And that's how you end up with things like what Bill Clinton just said. They're not trying that hard. So they're trying so little, they start telling the truth. They're trying hard when they can consistently lie to you. They're failing in that goal when they start telling the truth. They failed to do the homework. So that's where we are right now. All right, let me take a phone call. I've got Hoke calling in from Round Hill, line 1. Hello, Hoke. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince, you walked me perfectly into my comment. You said they don't care. I think they do care. They cannot allow Kamala to win because if she wins, the world is telling everybody that she was a better candidate than Hillary was.
Yeah, but you think Bill is really fighting for Hillary Clinton's honor? I get what you're saying, that like typically when all of this happens at the same time, you'd think that there's some sort of plan underway in order to facilitate that outcome, right? To hurt Kamala. And maybe in Joe Biden's world, that's definitely the kind of thing they desire. He's probably bitter about how everything went down. But Obama and Clinton, they strike me as so completely lazy, so impressed with themselves. And they come in and they just mail it in as they do these events. And in the end, they're just ending up hurting her.
Well, you got to understand, though, fighting for Hillary's honor would not be much of a fight.
No. And Bill, I don't know. Maybe she's such a nightmare that he just wants to like keep her happy, just like so she can stay off his back. Maybe that's what's happening. It's a theory. Thanks, Hoke. I appreciate it. Let's see here. I've got Chris calling in from Marshall, line 2. Chris, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Good afternoon, and I never thought I'd see the day that I agree with Bill Clinton. But
yeah, I know.
Let me give you a demographic nightmare. I counted up a while back. I come from a large family.
Yeah.
I counted up a while back among my acquaintances, not just my family, but my friends, my neighbors, my relatives, my ex-relatives. I knew 28 people, 28. They were between the ages of 15 and 35. One of them, ONE1, a singular one, has a child, and they live in Italy. And these aren't all white middle-class or upper-middle-class Americans. Many of them are black or other ethnicities.
Yeah.
But this was a cross-section. That the large family stopped with my parents. I'm one of 5.
Yep.
And I have one brother that has one. I have a sister that has one, and I have a brother that has three children. Right now, those kids, among all of these people that are of that reproducing demographic, one, a singular. I have no nieces. I have no great nieces. No. My nieces and nephews don't have any kids. None of them.
So are you saying that are you saying, Chris, that the left's current program of telling people that kids are awful and that if one emerges, you should probably try and abort it, you think that's working against us?
100%. Absolutely. We are not. If you listen to Victor Davis Hanson, we are so far beyond any kind of a reproductive replacement. And he says, the scary thing is, he says no culture in history has recovered from the birth rates that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, they call it population collapse. That's where we're undergoing it right now. Elon Musk is very big on this too. I don't know how many kids he has. He's got a lot of kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, Chris, thank you. That's a really Chris doing a straw poll, just looking around the family and saying how many of these young people have kids, and one of the couples out of the 28 that he surveyed. Holy cow. All right, let me get Todd from West Virginia in here, line 2. Hey, Todd, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hello, sir. Good morning. Well, good afternoon. Good to hear you.
Thank you.
My comment is regarding President Obama's scolding of the Black brothers for not supporting Kamala in her efforts. And the question that came to me is, oh, by the way, I'm independent. I used to be Republican, so I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I am conservative. But my concern is if any politician tells you you need to vote for them because they have the same background, ethnicity, whatever the case may be very afraid, because under what other working relationship or business relationship would that be a valid criteria for choosing somebody?
No.
Why is it only brought up in politics?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And what was Kamala's answer to all of this? What is she trying to do? She's proposing blatantly illegal programs right now to try and court black men. She proposed a series of race-based government payments yesterday that she wants to do as giveaways to black men, which is illegal according to the Civil Rights Act. It forbids racial discrimination in federally funded programs. She doesn't care. And this is the way these Democrats operate. They just run roughshod over the law, and then they browbeat people on the basis of their skin color and say, because of your skin color, you have to vote for us. That's what they do across the board. And I think Americans are waking up to it. They're sick of that crap, and rightfully so. Katie Gorka will join us coming up next as Biden tries to force illegals back onto the voter rolls in Virginia. Hey, good afternoon to you. It is now 3:36 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, Todd Bensman is with us from the Center for Immigration Studies. We've got a lot more illegals headed to our border right now. Todd is tracking them south of our border. Will we get an update from him? Megan Brock joins us at 4:30 as the Biden administration tries to make permanent child abuse in the United States. Megan with a very important story coming up at 4:30. And then at 5 o'clock, Mark Paoletta joins us as Kamala Harris proposes blatantly illegal programs in hysterical efforts to try and win black men back over to her. It's unbelievable. You see, she wants to legalize, she's trying to make it easier to get pot. She wants to legalize pot, but she wants to ban menthols. They don't talk about that part. Amazing. You can join us 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. In Virginia, Governor Glenn Youngkin is one of several governors across the country to purge non-citizens from the voting rolls this year, to remove them, saying, well, you're not a citizen, so you're ineligible to vote anyway, so you shouldn't be in our system. 6,000 such people in the Commonwealth of Virginia, non-citizens who've been removed from the voter rolls, appropriately so. The Biden administration on Friday the Department of Justice sued the Commonwealth of Virginia and said, you have to restore those non-citizens to the voter rolls where it is illegal for them to be. For more on this, I want to bring in the great Katie Gorka now. She's the chairwoman of the Fairfax Republican Party, and she joins us on the phone. Katie, good to have you back with us.
Vince, isn't it a crazy world we live in?
It's insanity. So what could the Justice Department's argument possibly be?
Well, their argument is that potentially some of these people might have become citizens in the meantime. But keep in mind, the 6,303 who were removed because they were self-declared non-citizens, and they're given every opportunity to re-register or to say, hey, no, I'm a citizen now. And I just think, honestly, I think the Biden administration is so stupid to do this. I mean, I get that they're concerned about what's going to happen in Virginia. We know it's neck and neck now for Trump and Harris, but this is such a bad optic because this says the Biden administration cares more about illegal voters than it does about the citizens of Virginia.
Yes. Yeah, it's a crystal clear sign to the public. You're right about that. So in some sense, I'm glad that they're undertaking this fight because it demonstrates what frauds they are. But I worry that they're going to prevail. Do you have a sense of that right now?
No, I don't think they will. I don't think they can make this happen, first of all, before Election Day. And I think it shows them for what they are. And the second thing is, look, Governor Youngkin is merely obeying the law. And these are laws that were put in place by Democrats. That's the other thing that's so crazy about this. So I just don't think they've got the grounds to make this happen as they would like it to.
And Governor Youngkin, to his great credit, I know he's been hitting all of the various television networks. I've seen some of his interviews, and he sounds really good as he explains all of this. He keeps pointing out that, as you just said, Katie Gorka, that the 6,000 or so non-citizens who were registered to vote in the Commonwealth, they have been given a lot of opportunities, multiple opportunities, to declare whether or not they are indeed eligible citizens to vote or not. And upon all of those opportunities, they've said, no, we're non-citizens. So they've been consistent about claiming who they are, declaring who they are, and thus they have no place in our voter rolls, do they?
No, absolutely. And I just think it's incredible. But, you know, here's what concerns me. I truly believe that those 6,000 citizens are a drop in the bucket. As you pointed out, those are only the ones who self-declared.
Yes.
What about all the people who've gotten onto the voter rolls who did not self-declare? And whether it was intentional or whether it was, you know, their English wasn't good enough, whatever the case. I mean, we know that there's an estimated 75,000 illegal immigrants here. You know, if just a small percentage of those votes, it can be really decisive, and that will disenfranchise Virginia voters.
Yeah, no, that's a very big deal that's going on. Also, another feature of federal law, I think it was the woman with True the Vote, I think Catherine Albrecht, I think is her name. I forget. Engelbrecht. Maybe.
Engelbrecht, yeah.
Yeah, who said that one of the quirks of the law is that if you illegally vote, it's like you have to be conscious that you're illegally voting for it to count as a crime. Otherwise, you can get away with it. Like that seems insane to me that we would have a system that would allow that.
Well, you know what? Because we're not prosecuting people who voted illegally, we don't actually know how this will go down in the courts.
Yeah.
But this is another thing that Fairfax County has recently done. Our electoral board here in Fairfax County has submitted over 1,000 names to the Commonwealth's attorney and the attorney general of voters, of individuals, non-citizens who were on our voter rolls, and we have asked for them to be prosecuted. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with that.
Yes, it will be. How do you feel about Virginia right now? Just turning to the issue of the election itself. You know, I know that Fairfax County has stayed busy, which is, of course, where you are the chairwoman of the Republican Party there. What are you seeing?
Look, I just, from the beginning, from the first day of early voting, we have seen such incredible energy on the side of the Trump voters and such anemia on the side of the Democrats. So that's one thing. I just, you know, even if in polls people say they're going to vote for Harris, I think a lot of people will simply not turn out because they're not that motivated. And I tell you, the other thing that I think is going to be very decisive in Fairfax particularly is we have a very big Hispanic population, and they are coming over to the Republicans in droves.
Yes.
And now this is a trend that's happening nationally, but I'm absolutely seeing it up close and personal. They hate what's happening in the schools. They hate the safety issues. They hate what's happening with the economy. They want to change.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. And my impression is that many Hispanics, including in Fairfax County, are insulated from a lot of the insanity led by, unfortunately, like crazy left-wing white liberals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. That's a problem. That's what we live with. But
yes.
We're working all the time to reach them. And I think what's so interesting too is I think President Trump is doing such an amazing job also of utilizing every possible means of communication to actually get through to people in spite of that wall that is presented by the quote mainstream media.
Mm-hmm. In Virginia, one of the things that I've been trying to keep an eye on, and perhaps you have a better read on this, is whether or not Republican enthusiasm was merely front-loaded in the early vote. In other words, we're watching all these Republican counties across the Commonwealth, and they've got huge turnouts, which is great news. But you wonder to what extent it'll start to peter out as we get closer to Election Day. Are you seeing anything there? Are you finding any optimism in how the numbers are trending?
No, we absolutely are. In fact, I've seen analysis that says the sort of the lead that Democrats have had in the past with early voting has been completely wiped out. So I think that it has stayed consistent.
Yeah.
Of course, we got to see what kind of, I hope there's no shenanigans with, absentee votes and that kind of thing. At least we're not California where they mail an absentee vote to every single citizen. But, we still have a good long 3 weeks to go.
That's right. And the other piece, one of the things I've heard from election officials is like on Election Day, because there are so many voting places and you get some election administrators who are not quite as accustomed to handling ballots as they do each day with early voting. That's when you get more chaos now on Election Day. It's when you get somebody who's a kind of an amateur who's dealing with things. It's going to cause trouble. It's going to be a problem. That's why it seems like the efficient voting is happening early and people are able to get their vote in and then remove their name from the system so it's not exploited by somebody else looking to defraud the voters.
Yeah, I think that's a great argument. Yet one more argument in favor of early voting. We are really, really, really encouraging people to vote early. But I have to say, because I've served as an election officer for a number of years, and the system works well. You're going to have 10 to 14 election officers in every polling place. Every chief election officer should be a Republican, and at least some members of that big team will have had years of experience. So I personally have never seen problems at the polls, but I agree with you. I think it's just one more argument why it's good to get out there and vote early. And the advantage of voting early is you will stop getting all those annoying texts and emails.
Yes, and you will importantly save money for the Trump campaign and all the associated Republican campaigns because they can then use those resources to pester other voters who haven't shown up yet. Right, Katie Gorka?
Well, especially, yes. And the Trump campaign is very, very focused on that 20% of the citizens who won't vote or who tend not to vote. They're really going after those low propensity voters. So if those of us who are high propensity can go ahead and get our votes in, it's all the better for them. And I will say here in Fairfax County, this Thursday is when the additional 13 satellite locations for voting open up. So I say make a plan to vote.
Yes, and yeah, there's no more excuses. An opportunity is very close to you starting Thursday. All right, well, Katie Gorka, keep up the great work, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Vince.
Of course, that's the great Katie Gorka, chairwoman of the Fairfax County Republican Party, hustling votes in Northern Virginia, getting people to turn out, which is awesome. And that's where we just a couple weeks ago, we were there on opening day for the early vote, and man, I've seen a lot of enthusiasm, and I realize, look, I talk to people, and sometimes they Vince, you're a a little too, rose-colored glasses on Virginia. You think this is possible, and it's probably really not possible at all. Okay, maybe. I don't know. I just don't want to look back at this election and think, what should we have done? What could we have done to put this in, to give this a fighting chance? And one of the things that election observers tell us is that there's really no state in the country that's going to have a unique turnout situation. It's kind of going to be the same enthusiasm all across the board, by and large, between Republicans and Democrats all across the country. And if Virginia is even in close proximity to even come election night, that'll be a really big deal that will work out in Trump's favor all across the country. So continuing to focus on the fight to win in Virginia, I think, is immensely important, because I just think it echoes throughout the whole country. And 13 electoral votes, not too shabby. If you can win Virginia, that's a big deal. That's a very big. If the election's over, if he wins Virginia, come on now. All right. Let's see here. John is in Fairfax, calling in online too. John, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. How you doing today?
I'm good, John.
Great. So just a little of my background. I'm a retired Homeland Security Special Agent. I do have experience investigating voter fraud, and I just had a couple of comments.
Please, sure.
First is it's very hard to get voter fraud prosecuted at the United States Attorney's Office, and as you can imagine, the cost of prosecuting a federal crime is significant, and I think that's probably the reason why more voter fraud cases don't get taken by the U.S. Attorney's offices. It's like resource intensive and unsexy. Right. Let me congratulate the Republican Party of Fairfax County. I've lived here since 2008, and I will say this is the first year that it seems like the Republican Party has put a massive effort into getting votes in Fairfax County. In addition to that, Katie's doing great. What I'd like to comment on the U.S. citizen versus non-citizen voting.
Yes.
What I would like to see, and I think it would be helpful, is when you go to the counter to vote at Fairfax County, if a question was simply asked, are you a United States citizen? And did you know that if you are not a United States citizen and you vote in this election, it is a deportable offense? Those words right there would probably cause half the illegals that are voting illegally to turn and walk away.
Consciousness of guilt, because you'd have to go through that exchange before you even handed a ballot. That seems like it makes sense. Now, my impression, John, is that this wouldn't be something you could merely do at the county level. This would have to be something that the state would impose on all of the election sites, right?
That's a good question. I mean, we do have local government and we do have state government, and you would think that local government would have the power to make their own rules on whether or not they're going to enforce voting laws.
Yes.
But it's possible that it might have to be done at the state level.
But that's an important thing, though. More states should probably consider making that the law as a part of the rigmarole you go through as you enter the polling place. Because, in Virginia, we all know the format. You walk in, they ask you for your ID, you hand it over, they ask you to confirm the details on it. So there's a script. There are things to do, and one of them might be, are you aware that voting illegally is a problem? This is why the SAVE Act is so important. Let me just tack on that element here, which is you have to confirm under the SAVE Act, you have to confirm you are a U.S. citizen in order to register to vote at all. And that way, if you've got a combination of the SAVE Act and the voter ID situation, that's how you square away the election.
Let me make a comment on that. There are thousands of people that illegals, that come to Virginia specifically to get their driver's licenses, because Virginia is considered one of the easiest states to get your driver's license and to register to vote when you get your driver's license as an illegal alien, because there is no follow-up once you register.
Let me ask you one other question, John.
Big problem.
John, let me ask you one other question, because you're drawing on your own experience in Homeland Security. You said you've gone after voter fraud cases What does the average voter fraud case look like? And were you ever going after illegal aliens in particular?
Yes, I was going after illegal aliens, and I can't get into the specifics of one of the biggest investigations that I worked, because it still might be ongoing, but it involved a immigrant group that is located in the state of Maryland, and I'll just say that.
Okay, then finally, when people talk about this issue, John, how big is it? How big is the scale of illegal alien voting in your view, having a career prosecuting some of this?
It is massive.
Massive. To the point that it could determine the outcome of elections.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. John, I beg you to call me back sometime. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your call today. Coming up, illegals. Like, literally, they're coming up right now. They're trying to get to us. Todd Bensman tells us about the Kamala caravan headed our way. He's reporting on it. Details ahead.